Rick, good to see you, man. You ready to do this?
I'm ready to do it, Keith. Good morning.
Good morning. So this is called Your Hair is on Fire, and I can't and I can't put it out for you. Yeah,
Okay.
this is inspired by a conversation that I had with some colleagues on Thursday. We have this program for Mayo Clinic physicians who are in their early career, and it gives them opportunity to really network from across the enterprise, across the country, with physicians and other leaders and subject matter experts about on topics that will contribute to them having a fulfilling career. And so they learn a lot of leadership traits, but they get opportunity to practice them and things like that. And so they brought me in to speak to the well-being piece of it, of inner well-being,
Mhm.
and to also lead them through a gratitude session, and I was up for it. So as I was explaining gratitude and mindfulness, one of the gentlemen hadn't ever practiced mindfulness or had a gratitude practice, another one had. And so as I was telling them about the way that I used to be as Keith 1.0 moving through life, and I gave them examples with the stock market and how if the market was up, I was up. If the market was down, I was down, and you did not want to be around me if I was down like that. And so this one of the physicians who's in the latter stages of his career, he's probably been practicing medicine for over 40 years, and he's just great, fun to be around, just really lighthearted. He and his wife have been married for over 40 years. And he was saying to me, he's like, Keith, sometimes I get so bogged down. Like I just can't do this today. I am something happens, I'm ruminating over it, or I can't stop talking about it. And he said, my wife will say to me, she will say, Eddie, your hair is on fire, and I can't put it out for you.
Mhm.
And then that will be his cue to let him know that, hey, this suffering that you're experiencing, you're the only one that can do something about it. And
Yeah.
it's not about changing what's on the outside. This is an inside job. And that's exactly what he said. She tells me, like, you got to do that from the inside. And
Mhm.
so I love that whole idea that your hair is on fire and other people can't do it for you. So people that are unfulfilled for whatever reason at work, it's not the job. People say to me all the time, like, man, like working in here or doing that is man, it must be so great, that you're working there and, you're so lucky to be having those experiences. I'm like, listen, the company's great, but it's not the company. I work on myself, so I show up that way first. Otherwise, I come to the company expecting it to do something for me that contributes to my well-being, inner well-being. Now, I appreciate everything company and others do around me and do for me. But if you come in with the expectation, with the requirement that people or institutions or organizations have to do something a certain way for you to be okay inside, man, that is a recipe for suffering. And it will never be good enough. And even if they do it, it won't be lasting. And how do I know? Because I used to live that way, and I see people like that all the time. I sit down and talk to people who are like, "Man, you don't know how good you got it here," but they can't even see how good they got it, Rick.
That's right.
They can't even see it because their hair is on fire, and they're expecting other people to put it out for them. What are your thoughts?
Boy, it's a really great example. I love that. Eddie, your hair's on fire and I can't put it out. I love that. And I especially like the part where he recognizes that he gets bogged down and he recognizes that he's the one putting himself through the torture. And the first trick in the practice, I think, for you and I that we learned was that it's all up to us. It's all up to us. When you're expecting something external to solve whatever your problems are, you're going to wait a long time. Now that's, the reason why that's appealing is, first of all, most of us don't even understand or recognize or are familiar with what our own true nature is. We don't even think about that. We just react, go through life reacting. Here's the circumstance, here's my response. Here's the circumstance, here's my reaction. But I think if we were to spend more time on deciding, or at least looking at what our own true nature is, and then deciding what it is we'd like to choose to bring into our lives instead of trying to uh, sort of create this salve of making everything all right, I think we'd have a lot easier time of it. I know when I was looking at life a long time ago and trying to figure out what was wrong and why I wasn't happy and why I was drinking and why I was looking for escapes outside of myself, or why I kept busy because I didn't want to be by myself, I realized, you know, I don't think I have a choice about how I'm living my life. And I think once I decided that that choice was something that was completely personal and was completely up to me, then I had a crack at not having my hair on fire.
Yeah.
Tranquility is a choice. Effortlessness is a choice, and it's very freeing. Simplicity is a choice. Those are things that I didn't recognize until I started to meditate and I started to be around people who I really admired, and often that's what I would learn from them. I'm choosing to be this way, even though I can have my hair on fire. I'm the one who's going to put it out. So, Keith, I think your examples are terrific. What is immediately before our eyes, this moment is all that there is. And we have to experience each moment in a way that is a choice about how we want to be in our hearts. And maybe the first step for people who are unfamiliar with this whole idea is to try to examine, what is it that I want to be? What kind of human do I want to be? What is my true nature? How do I feel when
Yeah.
I'm doing and recognizing who I really am? And even if you're my age, it's not too late.
Yeah, Rick, I completely agree, man. Yeah, this idea about my hair is on fire. Your hair is on fire and I can't put it out for you. I just think it's just so wonderful, that my friend and his wife have that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
She hears him carrying on and she's just like, Eddie, your hair's on fire and I can't put it out for you. And just, I mean, just letting people know, like, hey, that's yours to own. And, Michael Singer says it so well. Just because it's a mess outside doesn't mean that it has to be a mess inside, which I think, talks about how there are challenges in the world and in life. How are you going to use them? Are you going to use them to let go of, the personal you? That's the best way to use it. Or are you going to allow those circumstances to, put your hair on fire? And the circumstances are just occurring. They're indifferent. It's not personal. None of that's personal. You're the one who's allowing yourself, who's taking those circumstances and lighting your hair on fire. You're the one who's doing it. I have a couple friends, man, like their conversation is constantly uh a struggle. I mean, and they're successful in life. I mean, accomplished in terms of being affluent, of career, of family. But if you just listen to them just talk about what's not right in their life, Rick, they're poor. They're
Yeah.
poor in that respect. I
Yeah.
mean, they are literally complaining, ruminating, uh, anxious, nervous. I mean, and it's really uh, it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. You know,
Keith, that brings up a point I think that's very important for people to recognize, and that is that I know this in myself. I think all eight type people are trying to always control the externals, and we're always trying to make a perfect life for ourselves and for our kids and for our loved ones. And so that pursuit of perfection sometimes is the thing that you need to look at because imperfection is the rule of the universe. There's no T square in nature,
No.
there's no engineer. I mean, there's a beautiful symmetry to a lot of things that happen in nature. The seasons, for example, how we digest food, how our eyes work. Those things are a rhythm of a life force that is inescapable. But when humans look at life, they're looking to perfect something which is unperfectible. It's not perfectible. And the quickest way of, I think, understanding self and appreciating self in the world is by accepting imperfection in ourselves, other people, and our circumstances. And once we accept imperfection, I think there is a relief that comes. There's something, at least in me, that I felt I recognized the truth that was never taught to me in college or anywhere in life, because my message was always about being perfect. But imperfection is the rule, not the exception. So what I'm saying is that I think the first step for me on my quest for inner peace had to do with accepting imperfection and circumstance and in myself as well. And that naturalness, that authenticity that comes from not striving, but accepting, really opened up an enormous amount of freedom for me inside.
Man, me too, Rick. Wow. It's liberating, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I think it is. Both of us believe we work hard at what we do, and we really do. I mean, it's not like we're saying, we're sitting around having a beer and putting our feet up and saying whatever happens is cool. That's a totally different concept. What I'm talking about is the recognition that no matter how effective, how efficient, how intelligent, no matter all of those things, you put them all together and you've got Einstein and Robin Williams wrapped up in one person. Life is still going to be imperfect. It's
Yep.
still going to be imperfect. There's no way that you can control all of those things. And to the extent that you're trying to do that, you're going to end up dissatisfied and a mess inside, as you said earlier, a mess inside. No, the goal is to be calm and to have that centeredness while the rest of the world has its hair on fire.
Exactly, Rick. Well said. Well said. Rick, thank you. I love you.
I love you, Keith. Great topic.
Great topic.